Hey folks, welcome to Never Have I Had the Urge, a show about the impulses we resist, the temptations we sometimes fall into, and the stories behind them that define who we are when we say yes or when we say no. In this episode of Never Have I Had the Urge to climb a mountain, I take a look at why some of us feel the need or the urge to climb a mountain. Actually, this podcast was built from that very statement. Never have I had the urge to climb Mount Everest, or a mountain, or any mountain really. Back in August, before I sat down and put pen to paper to create this podcast, I was having a phone conversation with one of my nieces. I have three. And we were talking about some recent videos we had seen on TikTok. I asked her if she had just seen a recent video that had been popping up in my feed about a recent hot air balloon tragedy in Brazil. In the video, from what I understood, there were a group of people who had paid to ride in the hot air balloon on a beautiful sunny Saturday afternoon. Suddenly, somehow, a fire breaks out inside of the balloon's basket. You can see both the men and women trying to escape the flames by climbing outside of the basket and hanging from its sides. One by one, they each slip or let go of the basket and fall to their deaths before the basket and the balloon become totally engulfed in flames and plummets to the ground, killing 14 of the people on board. My niece said, "Oh, wow," but she had not seen it yet. And I said to her, "You know what? Never have I had the urge to ride in a hot air balloon." We both chuckled at that, and she said to me, "Yeah, Uncle Vic, never have I had the urge to go running with the bulls in Spain either." We laughed, and I came back with, "Well, never have I had the urge to climb Mount Everest." I had recently seen a documentary on Netflix called Aftershock, Everest and the Nepal Earthquake, and I remember thinking, you couldn't pay me enough to climb that thing. And that's when it hit me. I said to my niece Serena, maybe I should do a podcast on that. A podcast called Never Have I Had the Urge to Climb Mount Everest. She liked the idea, and we started bouncing ideas off of each other. More never have I had the urge moments. And we were quickly able to compile a list of things we both never had the urge to do. And top of the list for me was this podcast, because I actually never had the urge to create one, even though 2 years earlier I had attended a couple of podcasting meetups. So as much as I'd like to say, and suddenly all of these mountain climbing videos started popping up on my TikTok feed. Why, I don't know. But I think we all know how that happens. I started writing this episode. So here we go. Have you ever stood at the base of something so big it made you feel small? Now, I'm not talking about like things like traffic or your rent. Rent's its own kind of mountain. And trust me, there's no summit photo for that one. I mean something that could kill you if you took one wrong step. For some people, that's a mountain. For me, it's the question of why we climb them in the first place. Because somewhere out there, people are risking frostbite, hypothermia, avalanches, just to be able to stand on top of a pile of rocks and say, "I've made it." But sometimes those rocks don't let you come back down. In 2019, a guy named Nirmal Purja, Nims as he's known in the mountaineering community, decided to climb all 14 of the world's tallest mountains in under 7 months. Mountains so high the air is thin enough to make your brain forget how to think. He called it Project Possible. Netflix turned that story into a documentary called 14 Peaks, Nothing is Impossible. And if you ever doubted what humans are capable of, watch that film. It's one of those rare stories that make your own excuses seem small and feeble. There's a moment earlier on in the film where Nims is trekking alone across a mountain ridge, snow whipping around him, and he says, "Don't be afraid to dream big." And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm not afraid to dream big. I just do it from my couch, not on a mountaintop. Some people climb, I recline. But hey, the view's still pretty good from down here. I've never climbed a mountain like K2 or Everest, but I did hike up Grandfather Mountain once in North Carolina. By the time I got to the top, I was glad that gravity and my lungs still worked. Grandfather Mountain is just under 6,000 feet high, and Everest, well, it makes that look like a speed bump. So yeah, I've been on a mountain, just not that mountain. The laser focus that separates ordinary people from legends. Me, I can barely separate my laundry. But then I think about the others, the ones who chased that same summit and never came back down to make it home to the warmth and safety of their couches. The ones frozen in time forever resting on the mountaintop. The April 2015 Nepal earthquake killed 8,962 people and injured 21,952 across the countries of Nepal, India, and Bangladesh. The magnitude 7.8 earthquake shook the very ground beneath Mount Everest and turned adventure into chaos. That's Aftershock, Everest and the Nepal earthquake, another powerful Netflix documentary that reminds us nature doesn't care about your bucket list. It doesn't even care about that you brought shiny new boots for your climb or even for your selfies. 1 minute you're celebrating at base camp, the next tents are gone, snow is falling, and survival becomes the only goal. 19 people, the most ever in a single day on Everest, were killed in that avalanche that hit base camp that day. When the mountain moves, even the most prepared climber becomes a passenger. During the 2023 season alone, a total of 17 climbers died to and from the summit. October 2025, a blizzard catches hundreds of hikers off guard on Everest's eastern slope. 5 Russian climbers fall to their deaths on Dologari. A solo hiker in Indonesia slips 300 meters down a ravine, never makes it home. Different names, different peaks, same story. We think we're in control until we're not. Same energy as me trying to assemble IKEA furniture without the manual. Even experienced climbers make small mistakes that become headlines. Unclipped ropes, one step too far, a rescue gone wrong. It's not always arrogance. Sometimes it's fatigue or just human fallacy. The thing about climbing, it's not about beating the mountain. It's about respecting it. In 2008, 11 climbers died trying to reach the top of K2. They stood higher than nearly anyone on Earth, and still, the mountain took them. Some had already touched the summit. Others never made it back through the bottleneck. Every account of that night says the same thing. The ropes were gone, the way down was chaos, but what haunts me isn't the ice or the cold. It's the reason they were up there at all. That impossible urge to stand somewhere no one else has. To prove it, to prove that we can. Most of us will never face an avalanche at 28,000 feet. But we know what it's like to climb past the warning signs, chasing that high of almost there. Our mountains just look different. Careers, love, addiction, validation. K2 didn't care who was brave or prepared. It only revealed what was already inside of them. Maybe that's what every summit does. It shows us the course of our own urges. Every summit photo you see online, oxygen mask, flags, smile, somebody else carried those oxygen tanks up that mountain. The ladders, all the necessary gear and equipment. Someone boiled the water, fixed the rope, and waited in the cold so someone else could have their moment. The Sherpas don't get movie deals. They don't get sponsorship, though. If there's any justice, North Face would have built them a small nation by now. In Aftershock, you see that contrast. Western climbers chasing records, while locals lose their homes and their lives. It's a reminder that the urge to climb sometimes blinds us to the people holding the ladder. The urge to climb isn't about mountains. It's about challenge, about wanting to conquer something outside or inside of ourselves. I've heard it said that when you ask a mountaineer, "Why did you climb the mountain?" their answer always is, "Because it was there," they say. And that's the human spirit. Human spirit is defined as our purpose in life, our relationship with all living creatures, and in general our place on the planet in which we call home. And maybe that's the same reason why I started this show. Because let's be real, the only thing I'm scaling these days is a pile of deadlines and honey-do lists from my boss. And I'm cool with that. It's the mountains I climb daily in my life. Maybe you've got your own mountain to climb, something you've been staring up at for a while but haven't taken that first step. I'd love to hear about it. I bet some listeners would too. Send it in. So tell me, what's your mountain, your urge, your story? Maybe we'll climb a few of them together in future episodes. When I think about it, maybe the real climb isn't up there at all. Maybe it's inside, in those moments where we push past fear or forgive ourselves for not reaching the top. Every summit has a cost. Mine's usually sore legs and a bruised ego, and maybe my pride. So if you've got a story, an urge of your own, a proverbial mountain you're climbing, tell us about it. I'd love to hear it. Send it in. You can reach me at hello neverhaveihadtheurge.com. And remember, behind every want lies an urge. Behind every urge, there's a need. Until next time, thanks for joining me on Never Have I Had the Urge. Today's episode was produced by me, your host, Victor Jimenez, and edited by the lovely and super talented Invisible Woman.